Okay, this is the Vision with Execution show. I'm your host, Adam Torkelson, and I have with me today Alec Atkinson. He's the founder of a company called HarvestReact, which we're probably going to talk about a little bit. And he's doing a bunch of cool things in investing and marketing. And I recently met him just within the last year. And the type of people I like to have on my show are people I've actually met in person and have had some sort of business relationship with, and they're cool. So, hello, Alec. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Adam. I
So
appreciate it.
we live about, as far as I can tell, maybe 10 minutes away from each other
Sounds about right.
in physical distance. And I've lived here in my city for about 20 years, and I love living in Utah. I don't know where you grew up or where you're from, but Utah is awesome.
It is. It's phenomenal. Yeah, I grew up pretty close. I was born here in American Fork actually, and then we moved to Boise, Idaho when I was two, I think. So I grew up there until I was about 15, 16 years old. So, but we love Utah.
Yeah, and you're married, right?
Yeah, I got married at the end of July, so
Well,
almost 6 months.
congratulations.
Thanks.
There's multiple reasons. Whenever I hear somebody has just gotten married, I'm a huge fan of the institution of marriage on just multiple levels. But if we're just strictly speaking of statistics, men tend to be more successful in whatever they're trying to accomplish if they're married. It doesn't matter necessarily for how long they're married, but usually the longer one is married, the more successful one can become. And a lot of that has to do, I think, with the responsibility, the accountability that puts on our shoulders. We feel, at least I do, I feel
Yep.
like it's important to provide for my family. So my wife doesn't have to work, even though she does. She's a therapist. She's amazing at it. And it's her calling in life. So she doesn't care how much money she makes, but I provide a good income for us so that she can do that and help other people. But tell me about your thoughts quickly on marriage, given that you just got married. How's
Yeah.
that feeling?
It's great. I agree with everything you've said. Yeah, I do feel, I guess, a greater sense of responsibility. My wife's the same. I mean, she just finished up another semester at BYU. She's going to end up going to esthetician school. She's very good at doing nails and those types of things. And
That's
we've
important.
actually converted our garage to her nail studio for the time being until we figure out what we want to do there. But yeah, she's been the best decision I've ever made. And I think that she pushes me in different areas in my life that I haven't been pushed in before, and I've learned that in the last 6 months, and that's been really good for me. And I hopefully do the same for her a little bit. Not that she needs as much pushing as I do, probably, but it's no, it's great, and I've seen the effects it already has had on even business, and yeah, I 10 out of 10 recommend following the institution of marriage for sure.
Well, good. I'm glad we agree on that. And if I could just tell you one thing, your wife is always right. And she is a lot more intelligent than you likely give her credit for at this point. The longer you get to understand your wife and her intelligence, the more you're probably going to rely on her for everything in life. And hopefully you guys stay married forever.
Yes.
And that's my goal as well. So I do try and insert a bit of philosophy and faith into each episode that I do.
Yeah.
I don't try and make it like the forefront of anything I talk about, but it's such a big part of my life. It's just I'm it's important to me to just bring it up. And so with that, I do want to jump into the meat of our episode together. I'm trying to make these somewhat short and concise, 15, 20 minutes, and get in, get out kind of thing. Somebody could listen to it on a drive to work if they wanted to. So the first question I always ask all my guests is, what is your specific vision for 2025?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think my specific vision for 2025 is, um, I mean, there's several aspects, I guess, from that, from a maybe spiritual, business oriented, personal,
All the things. Yep.
all the things, right? And I think for my 2025 is to continue to make meaningful and lasting relationships in all of the areas that I just spoke about, right? And I think that obviously is a big kind of broad aspect of it, but I guess what you said with what's above your head vision with execution is reality, right? And I guess what I've found is the more that I've been successful is what you said, right? Like surrounding yourself with people that have similar goals or similar ambition to you, um, that tends to lead to a lot of success, right? In all the different aspects that I just spoke about, that I just said. So,
So your vision, it sounds like, if I could rephrase it back to you, is continue doing what's been working and
yep,
continue building your network of incredible people, whatever that means to you.
yep,
I kind of have a litmus test that it's not scientific at all, but I don't like dealing with a-holes. And
yeah,
that's served me well over the years. I did not come up with that, but it's and the last show I did, I really had to I asked my guest what he would consider an a-hole to be, because we're nobody ever knows. You could call somebody an a-hole and mean something, and I could say someone's an a-hole and means something else completely. But for me, the best people in my life are the ones that I know I can just call up or text, and they're going to respond to me quickly. To me,
that's
that's one of the biggest signs of someone that respects me and my time and cares about my success, is people that get back to me in a timely fashion. They could be terrible at lots of other things, but if they're good at that one thing, in my book, that's huge. So how do you define the non a-holes, the kind of people you do want to surround yourself with?
Yeah, that's very important to me. You hit on it with the getting back quickly, and I try to do my best in the same manner. I think the other thing is I think they care about me more than what they see me like that they need me for, right? And you can tell that pretty quickly with, especially in business. I feel like somebody always, I feel like everyone has an agenda. I don't care who you are. I think everyone does, and everyone needs something, and or wants something, or whether it's to better their business, or bringing an investor in, or a sales goal, or I mean whatever you want to call it, right? But I also think that that's what I mean by like meaningful and lasting relationships, because I think sometimes you get into the speed of just everything's a transaction, or there's something that needs to be done, and you kind of sometimes lose sight of um, the actual person you're dealing with and working with, right? And I that is something that's very important to me, especially as I don't know, the last couple of years have played out, and getting married and doing those type of things. I do care about what's going on around me, and people that take a really vested interest in my life, maybe not just in business, but in other extracurricular, whatever it may be, right? Family life, doing things, and anyways, so that's what I would say with that.
So if somebody really did want to get to know you on that deeper, more personal level, so you would feel like they really did have your best interest in mind outside of what you can do, what's one thing that you would put out there right now that's like, this thing, if somebody approached me and they were just so focused on
Yeah.
this one thing, what would that be for you? I know that's kind of out of the blue.
I mean, honestly, I think it would just be like sincere, because you can tell when somebody's sincere and when they're not most of the time. I mean, sometimes I guess I could be wrong, but honestly, just asking like, how's life going? Like, how's marriage, how's Maylin? I mean, and that's if they know me, of course, but if they don't, I mean, I guess just different topics than just the run of the mill, what are you doing in business? How is it going right now? Right? Like how much have you raised? What are your projections for the year? Like, it's just kind of
So they're not treating you like a spreadsheet, basically.
yeah, exactly. Right. And I think that, that's important because you need to have that human connection with people and vice versa. I'm the same way. Right. And, Malin and I have made it a goal this year to have, you know, um, friends and different couples over, try to do it once or twice a month, and or at least probably a couple times a month. We've done it every week, since the start of the year, which is not very long because it's the 7th. And so, but we've already had two, and it's been really fun to have that. Whether they've been business partners or investors or just friends from college or whatever it may be, kind of having that more personal time and connection, because I think a lot of times it's just like I said, life gets busy. You don't have time to do that as much, and so um, that's been a goal for us for this year, and I think that's served us well for the first 7 days. So we'll see if we can keep it up. But you
Well,
know,
that's actually good to know because I like having people over to our house too. My family rotates on Sundays. Each one of us will get a turn to decide what we're going to do that Sunday, because Sunday is the only day where we're all home all at the same time, basically, because I've got an 18-year-old son.
yep,
He's a senior, he's got friends, he's got a job, he's getting ready to go on his mission. And my 14-year-old daughter, she's out and about with whatever things she's doing. So
yeah,
Sundays turn out to be the only day in which, as a family, we do things together. And the thing I like to do personally on my Sunday is have people over to our house, whether it's just to play games or have food or hang out. I love interacting with people outside of just the normal family dynamic, but I like introducing them to my family as well,
yeah,
because that's the way that I teach my kids, is by showing them how you interact with people that aren't family.
right,
And you need to get to know people on deeper level than just their basic statistics and biography.
yep,
And the only way you do that, at least for me, is interacting with them in a couple of different scenarios. And games, for me, it's one of the best ways that I've ever gotten to know people, is just playing stupid games for an hour or two. I
yeah,
love doing that. So I'll have you and Maylin over at some point this year
that'd be awesome.
on my Sunday.
Great. No, that's awesome.
Because yeah, I do think you're what you've done from my perspective is pretty awesome. And I know this isn't the show where you get to talk about everything you're doing, your spreadsheet of accolades and accomplishments, but I do, it's relevant for our conversation because this is how I met you, was
Yeah,
through one of the investments that I made into Arcane. And if you want to take a second and talk about what that is, I know you've got regulatory things that you got to be aware of. So however you describe it to people, go for that. And then we'll move on to the last question of the
yeah,
show.
yeah, absolutely. So Arcane was started because like HarvestReact, I mean, similar venture. I mean, HarvestReact's not there's no form of investments with HarvestReact. There's just, there's joint venture partnerships and stuff like that. But I saw, as I was an analyst for a venture capital firm while I was in college, that there was a lot of high profile families or ultra high net worth families that were making quite a large sum of money off of, I don't know, I would call it exclusive investments and more institutional investments and pre-IPOs and things that are happening in the venture capital of the world. They made significant gains. And I thought to myself, a lot of top hedge funds, venture capital firms have very high minimums, right? They're about $1 million to $2 million minimums. And, just from my background, like we couldn't have afforded that when I was growing up, and I don't think my parents could have. And so they also have a huge lockup period. They're typically 1 to 5 year lockup periods where you can't touch capital. And so when I set out to build Arcane, we thought to ourselves, well, what can we do that is a pretty highly liquid fund that would allow us to, give monthly distributions, would hopefully have a good ROI, and provide, some sustainability and some cash flow to people that would need it. And that's what we set out to do with Arcane, more from like a quantitative trading perspective, right? And we trade currencies, but so that is kind of the platform that we built Arcane on, creating low minimums, trying to create a framework for different types of investors at different net worths. And so I'll leave it at that. But yeah, that's been kind of a good sounding board for us. And I think it's been nice because we've worked with ultra high net worth individuals, but we've also been able to work with, typical run of the mill people, right? And
Kind of like me. That's what I would consider myself.
yeah, and it's
Run of the
great.
mill. Yep.
And it's awesome, and I like both worlds because you can learn a lot from all sorts of people, and we've learned that in Arcane. And I hope as we continue to grow Arcane, that we continue to have that framework and bring on just awesome people like yourself. So I'll leave it at that. So
Sweet. So last question before we wrap up. With the vision of whatever it is you're hoping to accomplish in 2025, how are you planning on executing that? And this is an open-ended
yeah,
question. I don't have any preconceived notions on how you're going to do your execution, but I want this again to be a platform where people can say out loud in front of the 5 people listening to my show
whatever.
what you're going to do to execute on your vision, because maybe the way in which you execute something, it might spark an idea for somebody else.
Yeah, I think the way that I'm going to execute on my vision is continuing to, you said this is open ended, so I'm just going to go for it, but like continuing to um, put myself out there. And by put myself out there, I guess I should say like taking the random lunches, meeting random people, right? Trying to create those more meaningful relationships with the people that I do meet this year and that I've met last year, because I did meet a lot of amazing people that I've really yet to develop a very like strong relationship with. More, it's just been more like a transactional business relationship so far, but I hope to further that, you know what I mean? Um, and I think by doing that it's going to be continuing to, I don't really want to even call it uncomfortable situations because I don't really feel like I get uncomfortable right now with meeting a lot of people and going to different events that I'm not used to, right? But just putting myself in a position where it allows me to meet really cool people and, you know, working towards not just only maybe having a business relationship or a transactional relationship, but helping them get to know me on a personal level and getting to know my family and Maylin closer, So
All right. Yeah. Well, that getting to know people on deeper levels has been something I always struggled with myself. I've got a background in I spent 20 years in pornography addiction, and that destroys one's ability to connect with anyone more than surface level. And so I've spent the last 8 years working through the addiction recovery program, and I've been sober. And that's the biggest thing I've noticed is that the more I work on my own mental health and my own needs, the more I realize how awesome it is to really connect deeply with people, because humans are wired for connection to each other. We're biologically built that way. And so I I, I applaud your vision, and I hope that I can help you execute on it, because you're going to come over to my house in the next couple of
great.
months.
That'll be awesome. No, I appreciate it. And same here. That's my goal. So it'll be yeah, it's very open, but I really think that if you put your mind to it, you can be aware of it, and I think that's one of those goals that I can carry out through the whole year, and kind of have that as my sounding board for the decisions I make and the things that I decide to invest my time in. So
Sweet. All right. So that's the end of the show. This has been the Vision with Execution show with host Adam Torkelson and my guest Alec Atkinson from HarvestReact. He's a stud, and I hope that I can have him on maybe again in a couple of months and see where he's come on his journey with his vision.